Just a quick note before we get started. This Q Trilogy supercut combines all three parts of our deep dive into the complex relationship between Captain Picard and the godlike entity known as Q.
Oh, please.
We'll take a fresh look at Q's trial of Picard, explore how Picard and his crew misunderstood and resented Q, and what ancient mythology and modern psychology may reveal about the mysterious bond between Q and Picard. All of this and more, and we're starting right now. Shortly after their first encounter, Q placed the crew of the Enterprise on trial.
You will now answer to the charge of being a grievously savage race.
But is this trial redundant? Let's rewind a bit, back to where Q first appeared on the bridge.
Thou art notified that thy kind have infiltrated the galaxy too far already. Thou art directed to return to thine own solar system immediately.
It would seem that humanity has already been found guilty and sentenced to solitary, or should I say, solitary, confinement. To ensure he's understood, Q repeats the Continuum's verdict 2 more times.
Go back whence thou camest. Now go back, or thou shalt most certainly die.
They've been ordered to return to Earth, under pain of death no less. Let's rewind a bit further and imagine what might have happened prior to Q's appearance on the bridge.
Ready, Your Honor.
In the case of the Continuum versus humanity, we, the Continuum, hereby declare humanity to be a threat to the galaxy. You must contain them, Q.
Objection.
We don't care how.
What about my test?
Put them back in their box or we shall wipe them out. Don't fail us, Q. Court is adjourned.
This is an outrage. They can't do this.
Thou art notified that thy kind have infiltrated the galaxy too far already.
I believe that Q was acting as a messenger, informing Picard of the Continuum's verdict.
Intriguing.
I also believe that Q has an ulterior motive for placing Picard on trial.
I see.
But he wasn't letting on to it, not to the Continuum, and definitely not to Picard.
Most intriguing again, sir.
If the Continuum had already decided humanity's fate, why did Q bother placing Picard on trial at all?
To accept you and your comrades as proof of what humanity has become.
It seems that Q was offering humanity a second chance.
Another brilliant suggestion.
A chance to prove to the Continuum how not guilty 24th century humanity was. That they need not be confined to their own solar system.
Impossible.
Drink your prune juice.
Just compare the starting point
Thou art directed to return to thine own solar system immediately.
to the end result of Q's test,
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
which allowed humanity to proceed as normal. If Q was trying to help humanity all along, why did he behave the way he did towards Picard? One possibility is that Q had enough faith in Picard that he knew he could provoke
The
him,
meaning of that vessel is as plain as the noses on your ugly little primate faces.
goad him,
Perhaps with more of these little minds help. That is enough, damn it!
even interfere with him to an extent,
You are interfering with my decisions.
that he can come across as making the test even more difficult to pass.
Either leave or finish us.
Tempo, mon capitan.
All this can do is make his case for humanity even stronger. If the Continuum were to reject the results, humanity's second chance would be forfeited. The real question for me is, why didn't Picard deduce this?
He's such a dullard, isn't he?
I'm surprised that this otherwise enlightened 24th century captain didn't seem to grasp what Q was doing for him and all of humanity.
At this point, I'm open to guesses.
And having failed to grasp this, Q's trial is something that will stick in Picard's craw for some time to come,
You threaten to convict us as ignorant savages.
and will be the main reason for the crew's mistrust of Q.
Simply speaking, we don't trust you.
Oh.
Maybe we could give them a pass during their encounter at Farpoint, but beyond that, do they really have an excuse for their mistreatment of Q? Q was tasked with either restricting humanity to their own solar system or destroying them,
Now go back, or thou shalt most certainly die.
but instead, he gave them a chance to prove themselves. He didn't have to do this, but he did.
Generosity has always been my weakness.
Perhaps Q is more generous than Picard cares to admit. Q provided Picard with the means to win humanity a reprieve.
Seems we're alive only because we have been placed on probation.
Many view Q as one of Star Trek's top villains.
Really?
But was he truly a villain at all? Or have the opinions of the Enterprise crew negatively influenced how we perceive Q? Let us know what you think in the comments below.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Star Trek was always a beacon,
Let's see what's out there.
a promise of something more.
Engage.
What Metatrek offers on YouTube is only the beginning. There's another place where our Metatrek goes even deeper, over on Patreon, an inner sanctum where new meaning is revealed. If you're seeking deeper content, rare edits, original artwork, or just want to support our mission, consider joining our growing community. Whether you join as a lieutenant with early access to new releases, exclusive edits, and a shout out at the end of our YouTube videos, or as a commander with additional access to exclusive video and audio content, or as a captain, where you'll receive a complimentary custom designed piece of Star Trek inspired artwork printed on high quality metal and shipped directly to your home.
Not enough.
And you may request a personalized video on any Star Trek topic of your choice. There's a place for you here.
Will you join our crew?
What's an idea? Think.
May I join you?
Do you mind if I join you?
Mind if I join you guys?
Mind if I join you? My purpose is to join you.
The only question left is, will you join?
We'd love to.
I'd love to take a gander.
I'd love to check.
Love to play.
I would love to, Captain.
Join us,
Thank you.
Metatrek, on Patreon.
You are always welcome.
We now return.
What is Captain Picard's background in diplomacy?
Extensive.
But whenever Q appears,
Jean-Luc, it's wonderful to see you again.
Captain Picard's renowned diplomacy
Get out of my chair!
gets sucked out the nearest airlock.
Correction, sir. That's blown out.
Alright, Data. Gets blown out the nearest airlock.
Correction, sir. It's sucked out.
Gets ejected out the nearest airlock.
What do you want, Q? You state your business. Get on with it.
Riker is also a skilled diplomat,
That's why they're asking for you, for your skill as a diplomat.
but you'd never guess it by the way he speaks to Q.
You show promise, my good fellow.
Have you understood any part of what he's tried to tell you?
What do you make of my offer?
We don't have time for these games.
You would think that even with Q,
A semblance of diplomacy is called for.
but instead, the entire command staff, with the exception of Data, berates him.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
Shut up, Q.
I will not be spoken to in this manner. What must I do to convince you people?
Die.
Oh, very clever, Worf.
It all seems so out of character, doesn't it?
Yes.
And we're just getting started. So why all this animosity? It seems to stem back to Q's first appearance. Picard and his senior officers have had it in for Q ever since he placed them on trial, and they never let him forget it either.
At our first meeting, you tried us in a post-atomic 21st century court of horrors. You put us on trial for the crimes of humanity.
You put us on trial for the crimes of humanity.
Of which you were exonerated.
Not only were they exonerated, but the trial actually stopped the Continuum from reigning in humanity. And it also changed the Continuum's attitude towards humanity.
The Q became interested in you. Does no one here understand your incredible good fortune?
Picard's attitude towards the Q, however, did not change. It seems he never got past the idea of being on trial. And this sets the tone for Picard and Q's ongoing relationship. Moving forward, Picard treats Q as an annoyance rather than befriending him and enlisting his help to solve problems. This pattern is clearly at play when the Continuum sends Q back to the Enterprise to study humanity further. Picard doesn't even try to engage in a constructive conversation. But imagine for a moment that Picard had simply been cordial.
I appreciate your offer, Q. We would like you to be our guest here.
We would still have gotten here,
No one has ever offered to turn me into a god before.
but without the pain and suffering of their fellow crewmen. But that's not how they chose to play this out, and the rest of the encounter unfolds the way it does as a result. Worf will be needlessly wounded a second time, and Picard will nearly get his entire command staff killed, instead of accepting Q's offer to repay a debt.
A debt.
To you. Without your assistance in our last encounter, I would never have survived.
Just be gone. That'll do nicely.
Q offers Picard anything he wants. Picard need only name it, and it's his. Q even makes a few thoughtful suggestions, all of which Picard stubbornly refuses.
I don't want your help, your advice, your favors, or for that matter, you. Do you understand? Once and for all.
You'd think that Picard would have learned not to scorn Q's overtures of friendship or help, but apparently he has not. Picard once again rejects Q's offer, to which Q responds,
As you wish.
and so Picard and his command staff end up making a little side trip to Sherwood Forest as a result. But the worst consequences of all unfold when Picard puts his crew in harm's way just to scorn Q.
My purpose is to join you.
To join us as what?
As a member of the crew, willing and able, ready to serve.
But Picard turns him down in no time flat.
No.
No. Oh, Captain, in fairness, let me try. I deserve at least that much.
When Picard refuses to allow Q to join the crew, Q puts Picard's determination to the test.
We'll just have to see how ready you are. Q!
Here, Picard's obstinate attitude towards Q dooms 18 of his crew to a horrific fate at the hands of the Borg.
Casualties.
18 were in that section and are missing.
Picard knows that he is ultimately responsible for their deaths. Q intervenes only when Picard humbles himself enough to admit he needs Q's help.
You wanted me to say, I need you? I need you!
And with another snap of his fingers, Q returns the Enterprise to its starting point. Was rejecting Q worth the sacrifice of so many lives? I doubt that those killed, or their families, would think so. I do agree with Picard on at least one point, though. That is,
The lesson could have been learned without the loss of 18 members of my crew.
but Picard's perplexing attitude towards Q doesn't stop there. For example, when Q tells Picard he's essentially given Riker
The greatest gift the Q can offer.
Picard's reaction is strangely confrontational.
Excellent. He'll defeat you just as I did.
So exactly how do you defeat someone who's given you a gift? But Q, ever unflappable, proposes a wager in response.
Your starship command?
Against your keeping out of humanity's path. Forever.
Done.
Riker does accept Q's gift, and even uses it multiple times.
Riker, you did that.
So Q won the bet, right?
That grid, their wounds. Only the Q can do that.
Well, in the end, they make it seem like he actually lost.
You agreed never to trouble our species again. You failed to tempt a human to join you.
Wait a minute. Tempting a human to join the Continuum was never a condition of their wager. Let's listen to it again.
So you're taking on Riker this time. Excellent. He'll defeat you just as I did.
Shall we wager on that, Captain? Your starship command?
Against your keeping out of humanity's path. Forever.
Done.
I didn't hear anything about tempting a human to join the Continuum, so I'm not sure what Picard is referring to.
You agreed never to trouble our species again. You failed to tempt a human to join you.
In fact, the only time Q asked Riker to join him is for a drink of lemonade.
Join me, Riker.
And Riker takes him up on the offer.
Incredible.
Feels like they're gaslighting the audience here, doesn't it?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
The Q character was not in the original story that Dorothy wrote.
Q was so totally different. It was like he was thrust into that story. This is not what the story was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about the mystery of Farpoint and putting this new crew together.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Let's see what this Galaxy-class starship can do.
Do you remember what I taught you in Zadi?
I don't see no points on your ears, boy. But you sound like a Vulcan. I'm an android. Almost as bad. Help us! Help us!
Not enough. Lieutenant, prepare for maximum acceleration.
Aye, sir.
Engage.
The new captain doesn't waste time.
Get off my ship. I want to beam over there. Visit the ship.
In my opinion, that's the only choice.
I'll risk none of my crew on that unknown.
This is much closer.
Thank you, Counselor. It's quite valuable.
I will not promise never to appear again.
Picard's questioning of Q in his ready room is equally perplexing.
Why not a simple, direct explanation? A statement of what you seek?
Q has already done this, several times in fact. Picard should be asking himself,
why this confrontation?
Since the moment Q arrived, Picard and Riker have been nothing but confrontational. And yet Picard accuses Q? Was Picard oblivious to his own behavior?
He's such a dullard, isn't he?
First real example of the crew's disrespect for Q comes from Riker.
Neither am I an Aldebaran serpent, but you accepted me as such.
Well, he's got us there, Captain.
Q ignores the insult, as usual, and after Riker uses his Q-given powers, he laughs at Q. And when Q inquires about it,
something amuses you. Perhaps you'll share the joke with me.
Riker rather callously tells him,
the joke is you.
To me, this is the height of rudeness.
Strange gratitude from one who has been granted a gift beyond any human dream.
Geordi expresses the same lack of gratitude when Riker cures his blindness.
Make me the way I was. I don't like who I'd have to thank.
That's just weird.
Please.
It's baffling how deeply rooted Geordi's animosity towards Q must be for him to choose blindness and suffering rather than have to indirectly thank Q for his sight.
What do you see, Riker?
Picard almost made it through the entire episode without making a disparaging remark about Q, but he just couldn't resist getting one in before the episode ends.
He's nothing but a flim-flam, man.
Flim-flam.
We know that this is obviously not true. Q's powers are all too real.
This is not an illusion or a dream. This is real.
But that's nothing compared to the tirades that Picard goes on in later episodes.
Your arrogant pretense at being the moral guardians of the universe strikes me as being hollow. I see no evidence that you are guided by a superior moral code, or any code whatsoever. Your parlor tricks are very impressive, but morality, I don't see it.
Sometimes I think the only reason I come here is to listen to these wonderful speeches of yours.
Or the barrage of insults and false accusations Picard unleashes when he learns a love interest of his is running off with Q.
Now, Jean-Luc, let's not be unkind.
I must once again challenge Picard's allegations. Let's start with...
He's devious?
I'm not sure what Picard is referring to. When has Q ever acted devious? Perhaps by acts of omission, but never by commission.
An amoral?
Q seems to be guided by a morality different from Picard's, but there's nothing to indicate that Q lacks morality.
An unreliable?
Picard is rarely in a position to test Q's reliability, and when he has been, Q's come through.
And irresponsible?
How can Picard accuse Q of being irresponsible when Q knows things Picard doesn't?
And definitely not to be trusted.
Picard has made it very clear on multiple occasions that he doesn't trust Q.
I don't trust you, Q.
And despite Q always being forthright about his reason for each of his visits,
thou art directed to return to thine own solar system immediately to test whether the first officer is worthy of the greatest gift the Q can offer.
What do you want, Q?
My purpose is to join you.
What is it you want, Q?
Sanctuary on this ship.
What brings you here, Q?
I have a debt to repay. I'm here to pay up.
Amanda's a Q? What do you intend to do?
Instruct her.
And once you've taught her?
She'll come back to the continuum where she belongs.
The ever-incredulous Picard always seems to doubt the veracity of Q's stated motives.
What's your real purpose here?
I think I've been perfectly clear.
I find it hard to believe that you're here to do us a favor.
Picard's got himself convinced that
Q isn't telling us everything.
Even though Q has never outright lied, Picard refuses to believe him.
You don't believe me, do you?
Q the liar! Q the misanthrope!
Q may not always show his hand, but he's never outright lied either.
Based on my research, you have been many things. But one thing you have never been is a liar.
It seems Janeway may understand Q better than Picard. Picard eventually admits,
I have no reason to believe that Q is lying.
And he never did, as far as I can tell.
We'll return after these messages. We now return.
Beyond their bad attitude towards Q, the crew had a habit of accusing him of all sorts of things. From the outlandish to the downright evil. We'll begin way back at Farpoint with this doozy.
Perhaps it's like those incidents you describe in your report as almost magical attempts to please us. As if it's something Q is doing to trick us.
After reading Riker's report, Picard is suggesting that Q might be responsible for these apples.
I'll be damned.
And for this fabric changing its pattern.
Gold would be lovely with this.
He's obviously not responsible for either. And we eventually learn that a giant jellyfish is the real culprit. Fortunately, Picard doesn't pursue this any further, as even he must realize Q isn't trying to trick them with apples or fabric. Soon, Riker makes his own baseless claim against Q.
Captain, if he's not open to evidence in our favor.
That's an interesting conclusion, since no real evidence has been presented thus far. At this point, it sure seems like he's making stuff up. And the accusations just keep on flying.
Why do you use other life forms for your recreation?
What? As I covered in the other video, Q had a legitimate purpose for putting Picard on trial. The fate of humanity was at stake. But Picard thinks Q is just out to entertain himself? Clearly, Picard has not taken this matter seriously. Q doesn't defend himself, opting instead to get in a dig at Picard before he vanishes.
If so, you've not provided the best.
Leave us!
When Q is stripped of his powers and cast down to the Enterprise, he's immediately accused of wrongdoing.
We are no closer to finding a solution to the deteriorating orbit of the Braille 4 moon, but with the arrival of Q, we now have a good idea of the cause.
We know you're behind this, Q.
Riker certainly is sure of himself, and Picard quickly joins in on the verbal assault.
Kind of twisted pleasure does it give you to bring terror into their lives.
Just like every other time Q's been accused of something, they're dead wrong. And Q is also subject to false imprisonment.
Throw him in the brig.
And physical assault.
Seems human enough to me.
In the end, Q regains his powers just in time to save the day.
There is no further danger to the planet.
And even lets Picard take the credit for it.
Captain Picard, you've done it.
Thank you.
Just like any true villain would do, right? And so because Q's help is neither acknowledged nor recognized,
Ensign,
it's up to us to remember Q's contribution here.
Set course for Station Nagala 4.
And how his intervention made all the difference for this world.
We'll be right back. We now return to Metatrek.
Despite Q's salvation of Braille 4, he doesn't even have to appear to be falsely suspected of further wrongdoing. Dealing with a con artist named Ardra, Crusher wonders,
could she be Q?
Q would never bother with contracts. I had the distinct impression of being in the presence of a flim-flam artist.
Picard's use of flim-flam artist is an interesting choice. Picard once described Q using the same term, but unlike with Q, here he offers some plausible explanation for her powers.
Transporter technology can make things appear and disappear. The illusion that she can transform herself into a Klingon creature could be created by holographic projection.
The crew often implies that Q acts in ways that we've never actually seen on screen. For example,
I'm still not entirely convinced that all this isn't your latest attempt at a puerile joke.
Or when Worf claims,
"You have fooled us too often, Q."
Neither of these statements reflect Q's observed behavior. If you can think of a time when Q played a puerile joke or fooled the crew in some way, please mention it in the comments below.
Please don't feel compelled now to tell me the story of the boy who cried Worf.
The closest example that I can think of is when he claimed to send Yar to some sort of penalty box.
Game penalty! She's in a penalty box.
And actually sent her back to the Enterprise. But even then, she could still technically be in a penalty box.
What are you doing here?
I'm in a penalty box.
A penalty box?
Q's penalty box.
So why are they making up things about Q? Perhaps as a way to manipulate how we regard Q by casting him in a worse light than he deserves.
How rude!
And it seems to have worked, as many of us Star Trek fans still view Q as a villain, a view I personally do not hold. It would seem that much of the crew's trouble with Q was of their own making.
We have not even attempted a diplomatic effort yet.
Agreed.
You can say that again. Q's visits could have played out more advantageously for Picard had he adopted a more pragmatic approach to dealing with Q, or if he had just given Q a chance to redeem himself. But despite everything, Q still goes on to save Picard's life.
I owe him a debt of gratitude.
And ultimately helps Picard to save humanity.
The part about the helping hand, though, is my idea.
Thank you.
I take a deeper look at Q and Picard's relationship over on Patreon. Join me there for an archetypal analysis of their connection, and see how Q might be a manifestation of a repressed aspect of Picard himself.
We'll return after these messages.
I was asked to come in by Jean, and I brought in the counter at Farpoint.
Tonight, the 24th century begins.
Welcome to the Enterprise.
In a special world premiere movie, Star Trek, The Next Generation.
Roddenberry wanted it to be a 1-hour pilot. The studio wanted it to be a 2-hour pilot. Gene did this brilliant job of turning this 1-hour story into a 2-hour story, which introduced the Q character.
Get off my ship.
Who was not in the original story that Dorothy wrote.
Q was so totally different. It was like he was thrust into that story. This is not what the story was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about the mystery of Farpoint and putting this new crew together.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome aboard, Doctor.
Thank you.
And now, the 24th century begins again.
Let's see what this Galaxy-class starship can do.
We now return to Metatrek.
This deep dive into the mysterious bond between Q and Picard takes place on a mythological level. Well, we'll explore the Next Generation's main cast of characters, not as mere fictional figures, but as a pantheon of gods, the members of which have an eerie similarity to the Egyptian pantheon, especially Picard, Dr. Crusher, and young Wesley, who we could consider to be modern incarnations of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, the original Trinity. But in keeping with our modern worldview, the members of our Next Generation pantheon have had their supernatural powers replaced with futuristic technology. And instead of residing in a mythological realm outside of linear time and space, our pantheon soars through the limitless depths of outer space in their heavenly abode, the Starship Enterprise. Yet there is an outcast among our pantheon who does possess godlike powers, who does dwell outside of time and space. His counterpart would most likely be Set, the Egyptian trickster god, lord of the desert, storms, and chaos. Q seems to possess innate supernatural powers, where the rest of our Next Generation pantheon must rely mainly on futuristic technology to perform their miracles. So let's compare Q's abilities with Federation technology, starting with teleportation.
Energize.
It takes, on average, 15 seconds to transport. In the same amount of time, Q can teleport himself or others a whopping 18 times. That's over 10 times faster. Note how Q's transportation time got much quicker after the first season. Q can create anything he wishes.
This is from Europe's Napoleonic era, sir. Late 18th, early 19th centuries.
Napoleonic equipment on an alien planet, one so different it has twin moons.
Well, as you said, I'm nothing if not imaginative.
Or manipulate any material object, including humans. While replicators can only produce inanimate material. Where Crusher must rely on her medical devices to heal her patients, Q has innate healing powers.
Their wounds. Only the Q can do that.
And can even bring back the dead.
His vital signs are stable.
Something that Crusher cannot do even with all her technology. And although Q never engages in mind control, another Q named Amanda demonstrates that he could have easily done so had he chosen to.
But you can't make someone love you.
Can't I?
Oh, Amanda. You are so beautiful.
And while mind control is something that our pantheon would likewise never do, the nefarious Romulans have the technological ability to do so. Q can control the elements of nature, including the weather.
A tornado touched down in only one spot.
You can never predict the weather.
Q is immortal.
Immortality is one of the defining qualities of being a Q.
Even Data, though technically immortal, was still susceptible to catastrophic damage.
Goodbye.
And Q is also a world creator.
Twin moons. Where are we?
Considering the power demonstrated by Q the last time, anywhere. Assuming this place even exists.
And this is England, or Q's recreation of it.
Something that even the best technology is not quite perfected.
We'll return after these messages. We now return to Metatrek.
Why should Star Trek contain a character such as Q? I believe that Q is an example of the archetypal shadow, the The shadow is a Jungian archetype that is formed from the repressed aspects of our psyche that are socially unacceptable and shunned in public. Over time, these unacceptable qualities form a subpersonality of their own in the unconscious. In Star Trek's hyperreal story world, these shadow elements seem to manifest as separate characters. While Q is our prime example, the shadow can manifest as a family member, a fellow Starfleet officer, or even Picard himself. These are but a few of the many shadow characters that have appeared in Star Trek. Almost always, these shadow characters are synonymous with the antagonist of the story. And the antagonist, likewise, almost always acts as the villain. This helps explain why so many consider Q to be one of Star Trek's greatest villains, a designation I don't believe he deserves. You may be wondering why I'm switching from mythological representations to psychological archetypes, mainly because they are expressions of the same universal ideas. According to Carl Jung, mythology is a primitive form of psychology, or, to say the same thing in reverse, psychology is a modern form of mythology. So who then is Q a shadow of? The answer, of course, is Captain Picard. Let's explore this further. Q is the embodiment of all the archetypal energies forbidden to Picard. Q is what Picard cannot be.
The Continuum didn't think you had it in you, Jean-Luc.
And therefore, by definition, Q is a shadow of Picard. As I noted before, viewing Star Trek as a mythology, Picard holds the equivalent position in the Next Generation's pantheon as the high gods of old. By all rights, he should possess the same supernatural powers and abilities as afforded those gods of old. But since Starfleet officers cannot contain innate godlike powers, Picard has been divested of these primal energies. And what should happen at the very moment that these powers should have been bestowed upon Picard? Another figure arrives on the scene that just happens to possess all those same powers. Let's think of the timing of Q's reveal to the galaxy, the significance of which should not be underestimated. While not causally connected, a deeper meta-connection exists between Q's appearance and Picard's command of the Enterprise, which reflects the connection between Q and Picard themselves. That they happen in tandem constitutes a synchronistic event. I make it a rule to always take note when events occur at the same time. It's usually a major indicator that those events are meaningfully connected. I believe this is a prime example of that pattern at play. Hence, Star Trek still contains the same archetypal energies afforded to any other mythology, and they're just as vital and important. These archetypal energies, like all forms of energy, cannot be created nor destroyed, but only converted from one form to another. As Joseph Campbell points out, if one or another of these basic elements of the archetypal pattern is omitted from a given myth, it is bound to be somehow or other implied. By the time the Next Generation rolled around, these energies had grown too strong to be simply banished or merely contained. A whole metaphysical realm had emerged.
This is the Q Continuum?
This is a manifestation of the continuum that we hope falls within your level of comprehension.
And its main representative had to be contended with over and over again.
Q, what is going on?
After these messages, we'll be right back. We now return.
Next, there's the crew's behavior towards Q, where they treat him like a shadow figure. And when shunned, Q acts as one would expect a shadow character to act, by becoming disruptive and even destructive if it comes to it. On one occasion, he lashes out until Picard has no choice but to call upon him for help.
You wanted me to say, I need you? I need you!
See my video on how Picard and his crew mistreated Q for a detailed analysis of this aspect. And then there's Q's special interest in Picard.
Q's interest in you has always been very similar to that of a master and his beloved pet.
His proclamations of friendship.
Because in all the universe, you're the closest thing I have to a friend, Jean-Luc.
Picard's own observations about Q.
Well, he's always had a certain fascination with myself in particular. I think he has more than a passing interest in what happens to me.
And the fact that Q cannot bear to let Picard die.
There's still part of me that cannot accept that Q would give me a second chance. I owe him a debt of gratitude.
To me, these events indicate that Q is not just a shadow manifestation of Picard's persona of Captain, but that he's actually a manifestation arising from somewhere deeper within Picard, perhaps as a shadow aspect of Picard's archetype of the self. Let's take a moment here and explore Q's name. He's named in honor of Janet Quarton, the founder of the first Star Trek fan club in the UK. Roddenberry often chose names with a double meaning hidden within, and I believe that Q is no exception. First off, it is notable that he shortened the name Quarton down to its initial, Q. He could have left the name as it was, although Q is an admittedly better sounding name for the character, and Q Continuum does roll off the tongue easier than the Quarton Continuum. That said, I do see a certain significance in reducing the name to the letter Q, and a potential secondary meaning. Roddenberry was undoubtedly a well-read and well-educated man, so I'd be very surprised if he wasn't aware of the hypothetical Q document. Once again, Q is the initial of a word, this time Quella, which in German means the source. This document is a theoretical list of sayings believed to be the source of the biblical Gospels, and herein lies the double meaning. By naming this godlike character Q, Roddenberry could be suggesting that he is the source, or that he emanates from the source. But the source of what? In terms of the microcosm, the source from which Q emanates could be the core of Picard's psyche, his self, which, in archetypal terms, would be at the core of his unconscious. According to Jung, the self is that which is closest to God contained within us.
And I'm God.
In terms of the macrocosm, the source would most likely be the Q Continuum, which, in TNG's story world, is perhaps the source of creation, of the universe itself. Since Q is both singular and plural, either meaning could apply, depending on the context. Source is also the root of the title sorcerer, or one who draws upon the source. Q's godlike powers would make him a type of sorcerer. In a sense, Q is to Picard what Merlin is to Arthur, but due to Star Trek's worldview, Picard is not receptive to Q's presence.
You are not God!
Nor his magic.
Blasphemy!
We've embarked on a meta-journey into the deeper connection between Q and Picard, and explored how Q might be an embodiment of the archetypal shadow, a consequence of Captain Picard's mythological position as the high god of the next generation's pantheon. In our exploration, we've bridged the realms of the mythological gods and psychological archetypes, and discussed how they are two sides of the same cosmic coin. And within the name Q, we find hidden meaning, suggesting that he is the source, the embodiment of ancient energies deep within Picard's unconscious. As we end this exploration, I'd like to leave you with this thought. In a world where Star Trek's mythological subtext collides with its rational worldview, Q remains an enigmatic figure. He is the embodiment of the ancient mysteries in a futuristic era. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this Patreon exclusive video. Be sure to join me and these other patrons over on Patreon for more exclusive content by following the link in the description below. And until next time, live long and prosper.